Hello, welcome to Local Edition. I'm Leslie Leyton. The OCTA is not just about freeways and buses anymore. It's about bikes too. That's just one of the things we're going to be talking about with Shawn Nelson, Orange County Supervisor. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So what are you doing about bike transportation under the OCTA wing?
Well, OCTA and most of our cities have had sort of bicycle elements for a long time, but for the first time that I'm aware of, I held a bicycle summit last week to help coordinate the county resources, which are really parks and then engineering that run the flood control channels, OCTA, and all of the cities, at least in my district, to try and come up with some coordinated plans really to match up everybody's efforts with the results that they're likely to produce, and to get OCTA's staff to agree to take the laboring more on coordinating, which has been missing.
So the hope is it'll be easier for a person if they want to ride their bike to work, for instance. They can get there safely and easily.
Easier, and the infrastructure will actually get funded because it has some common purpose and focus.
So you're looking at matching up the intersections and the bike lanes?
The bike lanes, and most people are familiar with the river trail, which doesn't go on a street. There are a lot of flood control channels the county controls. Some don't have any room for a bike lane, but surprisingly a lot do. And we want to work those into the city's plans so that if we can use them, they pick up with what the adjacent city's kind of planning for their surface streets, so the system actually makes some sense.
You're also a new member of the AQMD. What's going on with our air quality lately? What's news there?
Well, the great news is it continues to improve, which suggests that the rules they've put in place over last several decades are starting to make an effect. I grew up here in Southern California. We used to have smog days where you couldn't go out and play. Really, we don't have those anymore. But we're now working, a primary focus is on the ships in the harbor that are idling with huge diesel engines, put out a lot of emissions, mostly that blow inland, so it's not Long Beach that's going to suffer on most days. That typically, without the Santa Anas, the air's blowing into San Gabriel Valley, Riverside. So trying to get a system set up where the ships will plug into electric power, turn off those big engines while they're idling, waiting for their freight to be unloaded.
You recently co-created a sex offender ordinance that prevents sex offenders from hanging out in county parks.
Yes.
What was your motivation for designing this, and how does it work?
It was really a culmination of something that started in the city of Fullerton while I was mayor and council member there. A family had realized an individual had moved in. He was no longer going to be on parole, but they got a forewarning. And what they realized is, although people are not allowed to live within a certain radius of parks and schools, this gentleman had inherited a home and he was spending all day fixing it up, but he actually didn't live there. And what we found, because it was across the street from a park, was there were really no ordinances to deal with these people on Megan's list that may not live within the radius, but they might choose to spend all day in a place they really shouldn't be.
So it just gives law enforcement officials a little trumped up enforcement in case they see something suspicious they can encounter with the suspect. And
sure. Some people are really well known to law enforcement, so certainly for the people they identify that are just out of place. My children's school recently had a carnival, and within the first 5 minutes, a probation officer was driving down the street, saw a gang member on probation just walking to the carnival with people he was not allowed to hang around with. There was an arrest immediately. So certainly some people, they would just be identified by sight. Most probably would have to trip themselves into the system. And we certainly hope that there'd be some deterrent effect.
Now, we just have about 20 seconds left, but we have the Seniors Summit coming up in Buena Park. Tell us about that.
Well, the county has a lot of services that we offer to seniors. We notice the senior centers are getting more and more busy. Certainly in the summer, they're air conditioned. And just trying to, again, alert people to what services are out there and make sure they're informed and have access to the things that they need.
Okay, so a heads up there. Thank you very much,
Thank
Shawn
you.
Nelson, for being here. And thank you for tuning in. Stay with us, more HLN next.